All right,
And then after, I can tell you guys, give you guys whatever you want.
Yeah,
for
and
it.
we might just ask questions
Sure.
after you say,
Just
yeah.
tell me whenever you're ready.
all right, I'm ready.
All right, Norm, so tell us what's
All
going
right,
on.
so I'm just trying to share everybody today the sadness we're coming through today for the news media of the closing of the Rochester Fair, as you've seen in the last 130 something years. Between the financial constraints, attendance, and capital improvements need to be done on the grounds, we're not going to be able to hold the Rochester Fair as you've seen it in the last 100 years. We are going to be in the process of putting some plans together to try to utilize the fairgrounds and to come back with some kind of plan that will include, we hope, some kind of a fair or festival of some nature. But that's going to be a few months away. We're going to meet with the charitable trust folks up at the Attorney General's office in 2 weeks, and we're going to try to put a plan together that's satisfactory to the stockholders of the Rochester Agricultural and Mechanical Association. And once that's presented to them, we'll be able to see how we're going to go forward.
When did you first find out that the fair may be in potential trouble?
2 years ago,
And how did that come up?
by reviewing financials of the fair and of the low attendance, the low amount of money we've been taking in every year at the gate. We've just been seeing a constant drag down of profit, if you will.
Well, you're going to give us some financials there, but give us a sense in your terms of debt versus dollars in
Okay.
what are we talking about?
So we owe creditors right now, local creditors, the city of Rochester and other local vendors, $76,473. So that would have to absolutely be paid before the fair could be open. And right now our checkbook is on zero. We've had several IRS bills that we've had come forward that we weren't aware of, that we've had to pay. And so that's dragged us down a little as well. We have $160,845.57 owed to stockholders. I'm sorry, excuse me, board members that have lent the fair money over the last couple of years to keep us afloat. And despite the columns being written in the paper, by the editorials being written by some of the stockholders and some of the folks in the fair, nothing's been done illegally. This is totally up and up. And to be honest with you, on all the boards I've ever sat on, nonprofit boards especially, I have never been asked to put money into a program to keep it running. And I think it's admirable of the board of directors to do that, to try to keep the fair afloat for these last couple of years. We also have a forbearance agreement due on 9/18, which is September 18th, of $112,000 to the Whole Rosary Credit Union. So a total of $349,799.55 that we've got to come up with by the middle of September. And we also have a mortgage for around $400,000. So, that puts us at around almost $800,000. And I think when I first started talking to all you folks, I mentioned it was between $700,000 and $900,000 that we owed, and capital improvements to the property that we need to do. And again, despite what some of the people have written into the newspapers and been telling you folks, there are capital improvements and life safety issues at the fairgrounds, at those buildings that would have to be, some of those would have to be accomplished this year to open the fair. It's just, the city has been very cooperative with us in the life safety areas, but they're clamping down every day as they are in other cities. So it's just something that the board has really struggled a lot on these last few weeks. And last night, the majority of the board of directors have agreed that there will not be a Rochester Fair this year.
Who actually owns the land where the Rochester Fair is held?
It's owned by 127, I believe, 127 stockholders individually. And it's an association formed that such, in an event that the fairgrounds would close or be disallowed, completely done away with. The only money that would be given would be the stockholders would receive their money back, their $500 or whatever they put in for a share in the stock. And the rest of the money, if there was a profit to be made, would be going to some kind of a agricultural nonprofit.
So what happens now? Will there be a fair in the fall?
There will not be a fair this fall.
And will there be a fair in the future?
We are hoping that we can redesign the property over there, do some planning and be able to have some kind of fair or festival at the grounds in the future.
Now, besides the Rochester Fair, there are other events in that venue. Will they have to discontinue as well because of those safety concerns?
It's great now. We have events scheduled till July 4th that we know we're going to be able to have. After that, I would say in the next month and a half, we're going to have to do some figuring and work with the city of Rochester and the fair, the fire marshal, if you will, to find that out.
What happens to the land now? You were explaining that it's owned by the association. Any chance that they would decide to sell this land and move on?
It's quite possible. It might be in the best interest of everyone to do some kind of a different program on that site. Yes, so that is a possibility.
So how would that decision be reached? Is that something that's done through a vote, or
That would have to be done through the charitable trust of the state of New Hampshire and the stockholders of the Rochester Fair.
A lot of
When-
emotions last night? Was that-
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. There's no one on the board that wants to see the fair close, and we've worked really diligently in especially the last few months here, to try to find a way to come up. And I will tell you that no one has come forward with any amount of money that could help us. And we've reached out to several people, and it's a business. And despite, again, what's been written in the papers, it's a fair, yes, but it has to be run as a business. It can't go on losing money every year and not paying our vendors. It's a terrible witness to the community to have, a group of folks over there running a fair and not paying local vendors. It's something we just don't want to deal with.
How many employees will be displaced?
There's only one full-time employee at Rochester Fair.
Okay, and how about, correct me if I'm wrong, there was recently a vote to make that an entertainment district. How will that affect potential buyers in the future?
The zoning that was going to go through to make that an entertainment district is on hold.
Okay.
So it was not voted on. As far as I know, the planning board has that on hold right now.
So it's fair to say that there won't be a fair this fall. There might be a fair in the future, but the land might be sold and it could become something
It's a
different.
possibility, yes.
So when you mentioned that about 2 years ago was when you started to really notice and really see that the fair was in significant financial hardship, at what point did it look like that you were going to have to close? When was the decision starting to be made that you had to shut the fair down this year?
I would say in the last couple months. I'd say in the last 2 months we've been leaning towards the fair being closed. It's in a real tough decision. We have, a group of people that really are passionate about the fair, and it's a decision we really did not want to make.
How do you feel personally today making this announcement?
I think it's a sad day for Rochester. My wife grew up in this town, and there are a lot of local people that have really been supportive of the fair over the years. It's just a matter of dollars and cents. We don't have the finances to keep operating.
Do you have any other questions?
I do.
And I can talk to you after too. It doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever you guys.
Keep going. That's fine. So one of the things that I heard was that the Attorney General's office, the Charitable Trust Unit, wanted to speak with you guys before any decisions were made.
Right.
Have you actually had that conversation, or have you sought their counsel before making this decision?
We have a meeting with the Charitable Trust Organization on September 16th
May 16th.
I'm sorry, May 16th, to show them a plan of what we're thinking. We're going to try to put a couple scenarios together to present to the charitable trust folks. But that would be all voted on by the stockholders. That is not something that the board of directors would do.
Now, how would these debts be paid back under your plan, since you do owe money?
It would be private investors coming in, maybe developing part of the program, part of the property at the fair, or someone that really has a passion for the fair that wants to come forward and give a hand.
Now, you mentioned also as well that a lot of this has to do with attendance
Yes.
at the gates. What do you attribute to that decline here in Rochester? I've been talking with other fairs throughout the state, and it seems like families still enjoy a fair and will go out for it.
They do. I think what's, this is my opinion now, so take
Okay,
this
yeah.
for, is only mine. There are 6 other board members. I think the loss of some of the agricultural displays at the fair have been a big loss for folks, but the barns are not safe. Folks don't want to bring their animals there. The 4-H doesn't want to come right now, although they were talking about possibly starting a small program this fall. The facilities are not safe to have animals in the barn. And remember that in Stratford County right now, to my knowledge, there are only 2 working farms, milking farms of like have milk, cows and so forth. And if you include UNH3, there used to be 7 working farms on Salmon Falls Road in Rochester, and there's 1 now.
How long has it been since you haven't been able to have the animals?
We've had animals, but just not a lot of them. It's slowly just been dwindling down.
So has the board done anything to investigate what some of those private investments or redevelopment opportunities might look like?
Not at this time.
Can you explain what the how does it work? That it's owned by an association, but it's a nonprofit, and the charitable trust is involved. Can you explain how that works and why?
So to my knowledge, the charitable trust oversees the nonprofits in the state. So in order for the Rochester Fair to be closed, sold, or anything other than the use it is now, it has to be approved by the charitable trust at the Attorney General's office. So we would present a plan to the charitable trust, and they would give us a nay or a yay, and then we'd present it to the stockholders for a vote.
But it's okay. I mean, you can say we're not going forward with the fair, and that
Right.
they don't have to give you permission.
They do not have to give us permission to go forward with the fair.
Okay.
They're really, I believe that their end of it really is more the financial end, to make sure that there hasn't been any appropriations or anything like that, which to our knowledge hasn't been.
So you mentioned that the last event is July 4th. I'm assuming you mean the fireworks
Yes.
display that's going. Anything special at all to commemorate the fair's history planned or anything in the works?
Not at this
to kind
time.
of- No events, no anything to kind of just celebrate what the
No,
fair is,
this just came about last night at 5:30, so we really haven't had a chance to meet as a board to really discuss anything like that.
Do you think, I know I wanted to put it in the context of other fairs, and I know you can't speak for them because all are different, but do you feel like Rochester's situation was singular to Rochester?
I don't. I think all fairs, after talking to different folks in the vendor industry, carnivals, all the fairs attendance are down. So I think it's a sign of the times. I mean, young folks now, they're home doing their, DVDs and games and all that stuff on their phones, and I don't think you see the family unit as it was even 10 years ago. And there's a lot, money. I mean, there's money's tight still, I think. I think New Hampshire's still, in an area where there's not a lot of money to be spent like that on fairs and so forth. So